Hi guys, I want to quickly go over gradient. We only have a short lesson today, so I thought this was ideal for what we want to do. Um, so the first thing is when we're looking at a table, or I shouldn't say table, when we're looking at a rule in general, the gradient is determined by whatever numbers here. So the standard form for a rule is y equals mx plus c is what the standard rule is, with m being the gradient and c being the constant and the intercept. And what this essentially means is that um, at any point during this, the or at any point on this line where it's graphed, the value of y will always be equal to whatever the value of x is times 4 minus 3. So in this case, minus 2 times 4 would give you minus 8. If you take away 3, that would be negative 11. So that point would be at, where are we? X is negative 2, so that would probably be here. And y would be equal to negative 11, so that's all the way out here. So you can't even see that right now on this one, but you get the idea, right? And that gradient refers to how steep something is. So let's move on from this one. Okay. Now, the general rule of a gradient is the rise over run, and it essentially means between any 2 points on the line, so you can pick here and here if you want to, it'll always work out the same. Between any 2 points on the line, the distance horizontally, right, and the distance vertically are the things we need to look at. So the distance horizontally is the run, the distance vertically is the rise, which makes sense because rise means up. Right, so between these 2 points here, we have 0 and 1 is this point, and we have 2 and 3 as this point, right? Between those 2 points, if it's going from 1 to 3, that is a vertical increase of 2, right? Whereas the rise is going from 0 to 2, which is also an increase of 2, meaning that the gradient in this case is 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Okay. Now, there are a couple of cases where the gradient's not immediately obvious. For example, if it is perfectly straight, the gradient is deemed to be 0. The reason that for being that the rise, there is no rise, right? It doesn't go up ever. So the rise is 0, and the run is an infinite number, really. It doesn't really matter, right? Could be anything. Could be, could be anything, realistically. So it's 0 divided by infinity, or you could say, if the run was between 2 points, let's say 0 and 5, the run would be 5. It's still 0 divided by 5, which is still 0, so it doesn't really matter. Now, when it's vertical, the gradient is undefined. That being because this time the rise is the number that could be anything, and the run from left to right is 0. And hopefully anything divided by 0 is technically an undefined problem. If you didn't know that, that could be new information, because you can't divide anything by 0. Okay, now, if the slope goes from left to right in an upward manner like this, so from left increasing to right, that means that the value of your gradient is a positive value. If it goes down, it means it's a negative value. So let's have a look at this graph here and see if we can figure out the gradient from here. So I can see from left to right it's going down, which means it has to be a negative number. Right? The next step is to find 2 points, so somewhere where it crosses nicely. It seems to cross with this negative 1 and 2, and it also crosses at 0 and negative 2 pretty nicely, right? So between these 2 points, the rise it's going down, so it's going to be a negative number, is 1, 2, 3, 4. goes down 4, the rise is -4, and the run from left to right goes across 1. All right. So -4 divided by 1 will give me my gradient, which is -4. That's how we would tell the gradient for that sort of thing. All right. So let's have a quick look at. I'm going to get you to do an activity, but rather than graph them yourself, you can use this. It's called Desmos. I will chuck a link into the document that I've sent out. Right. And the way that this works is essentially you can enter in an equation and it will graph it for you. So for example, if we wanted to look at y equals -2x plus 6, that's what that would look like, right? So I want you to play around with, there's a few different graphs that are going to be on this sheet, and see if you can figure out what effect changing this number has. What effect does that have on the graph, right? And what effect does changing this number have? What does that do? You can change this to a -2 if you want. Right? And see what effect those have. See if you can figure out what changing this number and this number does. Right? And that's all for today. Only a very short lesson. So, thanks guys. Take it easy.